Are we all good? All right, let's just wait for you to all get. No, you're all good. Yeah, sorry, didn't mean messing around. I was trying to act as troll patrol, and I'd not saw my mics out. Hello, Tiny. Hello, Deirdre. Hello, Donna. Pauline. Oh gosh, all going so fast here. Jane. Good evening, Jane. Oh wow, how do I pronounce that one? Vikeshne? Ooh, sorry, hopefully that's right, but hello. Sharon missed the shenanigans last week. That's fine. Julie, Natalie. Hello, Nat. Oh, we're doing I'm glowing because I messed up my mic. As usual. Carol, Angie, woo! Yeah. Michael and Jay have been banned from last week. Good God. If they come back today under a different name, I'll cry. But I say I've got another tab going, which could completely screw up the mics, but let's see what else. Let's go. So Akis, watching for the Philippines. Roxy. Excellent. Wow, everyone's here tonight. Karen, Dot. Okay. I don't know how this is going to go, but I think it's more of a techniques game tonight, I think. Because this is what I wanted to say first up, okay, before I plow into this. This is not technically how I would do apples for real. When I did apples recently, I used ganache and I carved and then filled and then covered them in ganache, and then I let them set up rock solid, and then I came back and with a really hot knife went over and made sure they were like super smooth. Okay. I can't do that in an hour. I can't even let the ganache set in an hour. So I'm going to do this in that it's quite nice to show you the painty techniques. And again, I think it's more of a mindset thing with apples rather than anything else. They don't look like how you imagine they look. And it's training your eyes to actually paint what you see rather than paint what you think you see, which is sort of some sort of 7-year-old version of an apple that you've got stuck in your head forever. As a lot of the stuff I talk about is trying to relearn what things look like, as opposed to just thinking, I know what an apple looks like, here's an apple, bosh. And actually it's like a 7-year-old apple, not like a grown-up apple. So we're doing probably a bit more kind of learning tonight, which is probably slightly more dull than the chaos that I normally do, where I've got airbrush flying around and panda bits of panda going over and stuff. But it's quite a cool way of doing it. But just as a caveat, normally, if I was going to do this, when I just did my massive fruit bowl recently, I properly did cake, filling, ganache, teeny tiny ganache. Then I let them set rock solid, and then came back and I smoothed because I wanted to make sure they were perfect with no lumps and bumps before I got going. Okay, but tonight we'll have a bash at it with buttercream and covering, and we'll see what we get, and you'll get all the painty technique and stuff like that, and then we'll just have to go with it. When you're doing this, you're going to use ganache. All right, so let me just catch up with those people. So again, help me out. Is it Tan? How do you pronounce Tanne? Tane, watching from Norway. Carmel, Laura, good evening, Laura. Marina, Michelle, Anne's found us all the way from Turkey. Barbara's here. Gosh, all over the place tonight. That's cool. Right, shall I show you the other exciting thing? Is we're working with a blue sponge. Can you even see that's blue? Well, it looks black to you, doesn't it? Where is it? The camera's back to front, so there we go. I've just been working through some coloured sponges that I had stuck in the freezer from a client order, and they wanted a rainbow cake. So that's why we've got a leftover blue sponge, because it's such a small thing that there really was no point baking another one. So yeah, Mandy, I know you got a voucher for your birthday. It's very excited. Send me a message about what you want to spend that on, won't you? So happy birthday to Mandy, who's Mandy's birthday today. So happy birthday, Mandy. Yeah, she was it your sister? Somebody sent me an email saying she loves all the online classes and she wants loads more and can have a voucher for them. So that's really nice. So if any of you want online classes and there aren't enough pennies in the bank, then you can always badger family members for birthdays and stuff, and all they have to do is send me a little message and I'll sort it out for them. So that's exciting. So yes, this is a blue sponge. I don't normally do multicolored sponges. Look at it, it's chaos color. But I had to do a rainbow for a shoe company, and yeah, it was left over. So there you go. So here's my first takeaway from this game, okay? And the one that I struggle with. These things are considerably smaller than you think. Okay, so when I was doing them, I found it really hard to carve enough off so that when I put the ganache and the covering on, they were the same exact size, because I wanted them to be exact. I wanted you to literally be able to put them like for like and not be able to tell the difference. The exact size as an apple. I kept making them too big. So that's my first takeaway, is when you're going to do this, is carve off way more than you think you're going to, okay? So your apple, yeah, it's kind of round, but actually it's got a smaller footprint at the bottom than the top. And you're going to have to go a fair bit smaller than your mind wants you to, because you'd be surprised how much, when you put your buttercream on and your paste on, how much bigger they end up. And then they just don't look right. If you're trying to play games where you got, you know, which is the real one and which is not, you end up with your fruit like oversized every time. It means everyone can tell which one's real, because the bigger one is always the cake. So do make sure you go smaller than you think you're going to need on all your fruit. Now, I know loads of people do this in cake pops and stuff like that, but I'm hardcore, as you already know by now. And it can be done in cake, so it doesn't need to be done in cake pop. So I'm just doing it, but I'm giving it a smaller footprint at the bottom than I am at the top, so I'm leaving it slightly wider at the top. It's very blue. A very blue apple. Right, let me just get rid of, in fact, I might just get rid of the plate. Whoops. And pop that there. But it's tiny, isn't it? Right, look, look. But that will end up about the same size. Deirdre, interesting you should say. Deirdre's asked if we can make an apple by carving 2 cupcakes. Do you know what? I had some cupcakes in the freezer and I did a big double take and I hesitated. And I thought about it and I almost got them out. Because absolutely, I'm convinced you could do it. I thought it might throw people if I suddenly started talking about cupcakes, but completely, I reckon 2 cupcakes, one on top of the other, would do apple. You'd still have to carve it. You'd be surprised again. But yeah, 2 cupcakes would definitely make an apple. Good thinking, Batman. I've got my cameras on funny, and that means that it's very hard for me to work out where the center of this thing is. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's put a bit of crumb coat on them. Again, I'm going to say it again, because when you've all got splatty apples during the week or whenever, I would ganache this within an inch of its life. Okay, so let me just get that out of the way again. But I quite like the fact that we're making out a cake, and actually you can cut this and it's going to be a proper cake. Because blue cakes and white buttercream is going to work so well. Let's get it on. So I say, this is really a painting technique that we're going to play with. Because I've seen too many apples that don't look right. I'm just going to put this on very gingerly. Yeah. The square, my goodness me, the square I had cut there, 4 inches, 4 by 4, something like that. It was pretty tiny. And so because in order to get your fruit looking realistic, you have to make it smaller than you think. This is where I'm going to regret not doing this in buttercream. No, not doing it in ganache, but I just couldn't, I would never get it to set up. It was just pointless. I wandered off the screen. I'm just going to sneak a little bit more on. And we'll cover it and pretend that doesn't exist. Do you know what I thought about doing today? I was, again, so tempted. I thought about icing an apple. A minute, I keep wandering off screen. I've got a little X there that tells me where I should put it. All right, so that is a mess, but it is crumb coated. I thought about covering an apple. I thought it'd be quite fun to start with an apple, cover it in white. I've not brought a tea towel in. Maybe. Start with an apple, cover it in white, and then turn it into an apple again. I thought that would be quite fun. I didn't know if you'd feel cheated, because then it wouldn't be a cake. Be fun though. You could really mess around with people's head with that, couldn't you? Give them an apple, cover it, paint it to look exactly like an apple, and then when they eat it, it's an apple. That's just how my brain works. Right, let's just get this covered, and then we can paint it up, which is really what the fun bit is. So I'm just going to work with this. I'm going to try and stay sat down the whole time and relaxed. Yes, Laura, my birthday's on Thursday. I will be 39. I'm desperately hoping by the time 40, the kids will be old enough for me to be able to abandon them and go away for a few days. Right, so let's just do this. So what have I got on my... That's not a good start. So you have to take some sacrifices when you're covering round things. You're not going to be able to get a perfect bottom. You can leave them to set up in like, like an avocado, like either, well, I suppose an apple holder would be the best way, wouldn't it? In the supermarket when you get apples in 4s, or you get avocados in 4s, or that sort of game, then you could cover this, create a little bottom, and then put it in an avocado thing or whatever, but you will always end up losing some of this depth. But really, you want to be focused on this bit. So let me get this covered. We'll see how well it covers. We just have to hope. Okay, so let's. I'll just check I'm big enough, because I'm going to pick it up and pull it underneath. So let me just check. I'm pretty sure it will work there. So let's go on. So anyone knows covering round things is not the easiest, because you get all this kind of business going on. So you've got to keep pulling it out, pulling it round, pulling it out, pulling it under, and then slowly working round. So ideally, at this point, you have it ganached and set, so it's absolutely solid. You will find this so much easier. I don't really want any wrinkles, because we kind of want it as smooth as possible. I've been mucking around in the garden all day. Hang on, I've lost my point. Wait a second, let me just get you back on. That way. That way. No, that way. Every which way but. I've been mucking around in the garden all day, and I came in cold, and I thought I'll put a jumper on. And I even thought, don't put a jumper on because you'll get too hot. And I thought, no, I won't, I'm freezing. And now guess what? I don't think it matters. So Laura's asking about slow drying paste. I don't think it matters with an apple, because you're going to get it covered so fast. You haven't got to do any texture work with it. Use what you've got. All right. Now lift it up and tuck it underneath. Keep working so the damaged bit, the underneath, gets lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Eventually, it will become like a bit that's stuck out the bottom, and you can chop it off. So keep going round and round and round, and you're just smoothing it all the way in. You see I'm starting to create that dent in the top. And you will get it to the point where you can just come in and cut underneath all those bits, all those extra bits. Sticking to itself. evening, Julie. Oh, minute, I'm just going to turn this around. Let's get a clean bit. Okay, so if you now look, oh, just a second, where are you? Even with us cutting that much smaller, we're still slightly bigger than our apple. I'm just going to put that apple in because you can see it better. Okay, so that's how much we've added just by putting the meagrest of crumb coat on and then a layer of sugar paste. So that tells you why you have to start so small. Really important. Otherwise, every single piece of fruit you do will end up oversized. Now, I guess that probably isn't the worst thing in the world if you're putting it in a fruit basket and all the fruit's oversized, because it'll all be oversized. But if you're wanting to play games where you've got real fruit versus cake fruit, you'll give yourself away straight away. So here's our apple. We need to first up make this indentation here. Can I just do something? I'm just going to work out something. It's annoying me having that there. So if I do that and I do that, I should end up back in the middle. I've still got a bit of a corner. I have to stop being OCD. Okay. Oh, sticky fingers. Right, so there we go. So it's covered dead quick. It's not looking too unround, given that I haven't ganashed him. And then we need to create this top bit. So we've got a big ball tool to start with. Now I'm going to go gingerly with this because it's buttercream and it's fresh, so it's going to punch holes in it straight away. So there's your big hole, right? And then if you come in on your smaller one, you can actually then, okay, so this is a small ball tool, but with like a point on the end. Well, it's really hard to work out where the camera is there. Okay, so I'm going to go into the center and just give it a deeper point. So did you see that? So you've got this kind of the shallower round point here. And then I've gone into the center with a sharper tool to get it looking deeper. Okay, and then can you see, this is what I mean about properly looking at apples. Can you see that you've got dents that come here, here, and like there? It's not just straight round here, is it? You've got little like lines coming off here. Okay, so we can put those in. Do one there. Do one there. And just come round on it and do one there. You can go back in with your big ball tool just to give those a bit more life. You don't have to do 3, you can do smaller ones. But you'll realise the top of your apple isn't completely flat. Okay. Right, I'm going to make my life easier by just putting this one here and that one there. So it's a bit close to me. But it's already, can you see? I'm trying to find this lump. Hang on, where is it? I can see it on the camera. Can you see how you've got the shape going here now, straight away? And you've got this at the top. Now, one thing I've learned from a very good friend of mine who's the most amazing sugar flour maker is that the way to get things to look realistic is to stop trying to make them perfect. So if you look at fruit, it has dinks and dents and like, can you see that one there? Yeah, it's got little lines where it's been battered, it's a bit bruised up. So realistic fruit looks better, and again, realistic flowers look better when they've got a slightly aged look to them. You don't want to make them too perfect. So that's worth bearing in mind, okay? So try not to get hung up on the perfect round or like the perfect petal or anything, because if you look at nature, it's got these sort of like damages and stuff. So I've got some questions coming up. How quickly can you make an apple from start to finish? A proper one would take forever. They take a really long time. So when I did my fruit basket, it was the best part of 80 hours to get all the fruit done. So to get this looking really, really good, it would take you a long time, because you'd have to let the ganache set first and then get it all covered nicely, and then you start the paintwork. So I tried to film it for him, for my client who wanted the fruit basket, and the footage was coming out way too long because it was just such a lengthy process. So we come to painting it. We need a series of colours. I've got we'll start with this one, and then if we've got time, I'll try and add some more red so I get nearer this one. Okay, so I'm trying to kind of do two here at the same time. Or not, I'll go from one colour morph to the other just to see if it helps you out. So we want this base colour. So the reason I don't airbrush apples or fruit is because when you airbrush it, you get stuck you can get stuck with quite a dark colour. Like people airbrush a red apple, they airbrush it red, but then once you've airbrushed it red, you've got nowhere to go. You can't go any lighter than that colour. So if you are going to airbrush this, you just want to airbrush to this kind of like greeny yellow here, and then you want to hand paint the rest. Really important that you don't airbrush a red apple red, because then you can't add the lights and the shades. If you look, yeah, I mean it's a red apple, but look at the different shades on it. You can't get those if you airbrush to the darkest colour. So airbrush to, if you need your airbrush fix, which I do understand, airbrush to the lightest colour and then darken down. So I'm going to put on my palette, which is actually a plate in my world, a little bit of green, which is a lime green for some reason, and a little bit of autumn leaf, which is going to take all the lime out anyway. And I've got a big dust brush. Okay, and I'm just going to use a lot of water. Basically, all I'm going to do is exactly as if I was going to paint a two-dimensional apple, but I'm going to paint it on the 3D. So you can instantly see that colour is not a bright colour. You want natural tones, and even that, I'm going to add some more water so that I get some areas that are lighter and some areas that are darker. Now I'm doing a Gala apple, and they've got all these kind of like feathered red lines, and they say that's a Gala apple too. They're both Gala apples, so you can choose where you want to go with it, whether you want a much redder one or one that's sort of still the yellow. But keep your colours soft. I think again, people think that yellow is like a real yellow, like a minion yellow, and I've never met a piece of fruit that hasn't sort of that minion yellow. So muddle your colours up. I've got green and I've got yellow, and I've got quite a lot of water, so it's faded. I'm using some areas that are more faded and some areas that are less faded. I want to keep my colour as light as possible so that I've got lots and lots of capacity to darken it up. If I start too dark, I can't add any more shading to it. I get to a point where it's finished, I can't do anything with it. If I start nice and light, I can then keep playing. This is just using gel colours. I know those of you who know me know I'm quite into my cocoa butter, but I want to be able to really use a lot of water with this. Yeah, I want to use a lot of water to be able to lighten it. And with cocoa butter, you get to a point where it just doesn't really lighten anymore. So I prefer on this to use my water. So Anne's asked why I use water and not alcohol. I've never found a reason not to use water. I think that's probably the easiest way to put it. Water has always worked very, very well for me. And because I don't drink, it's not like I have vodka sitting around the house. So if I did drink, I probably would have vodka around, and then I'd probably use it. But I really don't want to go out and spend, 13, 14 pounds on a bottle of vodka just for this. Water's never let me down. I'm just thinning it out a bit here. I just wanted to be able to a bit lighter. I want to keep some areas really light. I think it's too easy to get carried away and end up with it all really, really dark. I'm trying to keep my shape round, but it's squidgy buttercream and not tough ganache, so you have to bear with me a little bit on it. Take the techniques tonight and then do it with ganache. You can see stuff on the camera that isn't done that I can't see it. If I move it, I'll squish it. Trying to get to your side. Yeah, I'm just a bit of an old dog and new tricks kind of game. It's just water's just never let me down. Okay, so there's like your base colour on. I'm just getting into this bit here. I can see a bit I haven't done, but I can't see where it is. Over there somewhere. But you see already, because you've got this painterly, what a little bug, hello. Because you've got this painterly effect, you're instantly getting those fruit textures coming in. I mean, it's already looking more realistic than it would if you airbrushed it. So the thing about airbrush is airbrush makes everything absolutely perfect. It's like airbrushing a human, you know. It's sort of like it takes away all the contours, and if you do it on your fruit, it looks airbrushed. It looks cartoony, and I know it's the fast way to do it. So say if you're going to airbrush, just airbrush to a very basic colour and then paint on from there. It's quite therapeutic though, although it's time consuming. It's quite therapeutic. I'm just seeing if I've got all the way around. Okay, so now I want to add a bit of depth in here. Nikki, yes, absolutely. So Nikki's asking, would you let the sugar paste dry before painting it? Yes, that's exactly what I did. So I did it. So that's why it was so time consuming. I did it in very, very much step by step, which is why I sort of wasn't sure how it would work on a live. But I thought if I can talk you through the process, then you lot are smart enough to be able to go off and kind of, you know, break it down into step by step. So we've gone off our big brush now. We're onto a more of a middle-sized brush. I've got a bit of brown, but again, I'm going to mix that brown in with the colour I've already made. So now I've got a brown, a green, and a yellow. Let me just show you. I know it will pop the focus, but see, that's what I'm playing with. And I build my colours into this palette. So I don't sort of do, right now we're going on to the red. I'll put the red here and I'll run it through these colours. So you get those tones dropping down all the time from one to another. And I'm just going to, there's also quite a lot of green in this brown on the top. Just start. Just start bringing it in. Again, you see, all soft, really, really soft. Blending, 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 all the way. So I'm just getting a bit of depth going here. And then again, because it's a Gala Apple, can you see it's not just random red, it's lines of red, lines of like dots. So they're dots of red, but they're forming kind of lines. So I'm going to chase this down to do the same. Do this based on what you can see rather than what I can see. So, and then we're into the red. And the red, as on this one, is actually quite a burgundy red. Is it easy if you can see on there? You see? It's got a lot of blue in it. Okay, so it's not a brick red, is it? It's a proper burgundy. And there's some redder ones. So we'll start with this one. So I've got a red and I've got a burgundy, and I'll put a bit of that on my plate. And then we're going to have to like dot it on. Oh, so we've now got I've got a red, like a Christmas red, and a burgundy red. And I'll play between the two. If that isn't working, if you're still too red, then start adding a bit of blue through it. And or a bit of purple, you absolutely need to pull it away from the sort of Christmas tree brick red. And make sure, you know, you can, again, look, if you look what I'm doing. So there's my burgundy red, there's my red, and then I'm pulling into the brown as well. And that is going to be a much more natural, realistic, you're in the room, there you go, much more natural, realistic red. So people try and do things by sort of using the primary versions of the colours, and you'll never get it looking particularly real like that. You've got to work in to these subcolours, and then you're just going to start dotting in. So we know we know they form lines, but they're still dots. You know, 8 million hours later, okay? Can't stress this enough. So I'm just filling in now some of this dot work. Now, what happens is you get very specific layers. So it now looks like we put dots on top of it, which we have. So what we have to do is once we get these dots in, again, I'm going to speed it, but you're much better to spend time. Some of them are lines. So you've got some drag lines coming through. And then you've got these dots going all the way. And if that's starting to look too separated, you're going to go back on your big brush into your greens and browns and stuff, and you're going to start going over the top, which will tone in your reds and make them blend into the apple a lot more. And then guess what? You have to go back and then redo your reds, and then blend it some more, and then redo your reds, and then blend it some more. And you go round and round and round and round in happy circles until your OCD goes completely insane and you can't handle it anymore. And you go completely out of your mind because you start comparing it too much to that, and then you start worrying that the client won't like it and stuff, and all they'll see is an apple. They will not see the hours and hours you've put into it. In fact, that's kind of correct. So the more they just naturally see an apple and the less they see the hours of work, the better job you've done. So I do some blended ones, some quite sharp ones, and then I muck about between the two. So there's some that are quite solid. I'm trying to keep my hand up. And then there's some that are quite blended. And so if they're running a bit too solid, you can go back on your other colours and just soften them off. Try and keep some of these lines in. But yeah, it's really important you start looking at, so red isn't just red. There's obviously like many Pantones of red in. So, and the green isn't green and the yellow isn't yellow. It's really sort of, again, just seeing stuff for the first time ever. Oh, so how do you look at it and decide you need blue to make the right color? What does the blue pigment make? Blue, yeah, exactly. So blue and red make purple, and burgundy is that's red. That's a red. That's burgundy. So how they've got from red to burgundy is it needs to be more purple. So if you want your red to be more purple, you need to add blue. You know the best way to do it? Get on one of these and start mucking about with colours. It's so annoying having my camera off the wrong side. I don't know where you are. There. You see? So if I want my red to be more like more of a red, then I'm going to add yellow because that's going to pump the red through. Whereas if I want to tone my red down to get this kind of more burgundy, you can see the difference, right? You can see the difference between that red there and that red there. So what I would avoid doing is adding black. Someone was having this conversation on the group. So the group, anyone who's watching who's not hanging around with us on a more regular basis, the group is the Cake Illusionist Sculpting School community. And someone was asking the other day, they wanted to get a burgundy, and they said, do they want to add black to red? And I said, nope, if you add black to red, you're just going to make it muddy. It's going to get a really sludgy colour. Whereas if you add a blue to a red, you'll get that darker tone into the purples. So blue and red equals purple. Therefore, if you add blue to your red, it's going to start heading towards burgundy. Obviously, bright yellow, bright green, you put the two together, you get a much more natural. Again, if you throw in a bit of brown, you'll get in a bit more. You'll get softer. So if I want to soften something, I can add a bit of brown to it. It's good fun. Have a play. Have a play. But I think that's probably the biggest thing with getting your freak to look realistic, is getting away from that use of primary colours where you're just sort of going, I know I'm going to put a load of yellow on here and then I'm going to put a load of red on here. And obviously, because I'm doing this by hand, again, I'm just working with what you can see rather than what I can see. Because I'm doing this by hand, I've got so much control over it. I can make it as whatever colour I want. Yeah, you just need to be careful with getting into mud colours. You don't want to just dull everything down. I mean, I don't put black with anything really. So I'm just kind of filling in a little bit this side. But actually, if you look at your apple, you've got areas that are much lighter. So here, you've got a much lighter area. So it's quite nice. So actually, you don't have to go all the way around going, right, I've got to add red all the way around. We can leave a bit. So if we leave this chunk here, let me just get around there. If we leave that chunk, so if we put more sort of the striping and dotting over here, and then more of the striping and dotting over here, and actually leave a chunk purposely, it looks more aptly than if you went all the way around laboriously doing everything even. That's another thing we have to work around, is that we tend to, I'm getting hotter. Wow. We tend to try and make everything the same. So our brains want to make everything symmetrical. And of course, in nature doesn't care about symmetry, not interested. Apples do not think, oh, I need to have red there and red there. They're like, I'm going to have a bit of red here and a bit of red there. Look at that. I was playing with the wrong apple. So if you don't like anything, you can just use a bit of water to soften it off. And then come back and come back with your dots over the top. See already? It's pretty damn good, isn't it? For, you know, 20 minutes work on a blue cake. So I think I'm going to leave that for a minute. Again, we've got something here that I can't see. I'm just going to take the white off it. Get a bit of that on. Working by camera. So if we wanted to leave that, obviously you could let it dry, pick it up, have a look at the bottom. I say you will always end up losing a bit of detail at the bottom because the weight of it will always sit down. So I tend to focus on what's happening at the top and what's happening from the side and not worry too much about what's happening at the bottom. But I'm sure there are ways around it. So if we wanted to just add a little stalk, again, they're much greener than you think. They've got green in, and they've got a little bit of brown, but I would do them again. Do them the lightest colour, which is the green. But again, I've got a lime green, which is really too bright. So I can just add in a little bit of the yellow from my plate. So again, I would always create, if you want to colour something, create to the lightest colour, and then use your paint work to add in the little bit. It's got a little bit of brown at the top. I had a bit of an argument with myself about this one. I really wanted to put a little bit of support in the stick so that it stood up properly. But I was really concerned because you're talking about something that's about that big. And I was really concerned that, especially as this was going to, you know, a studio where they were going to be just filming and mucking about with it, that could be so easily eaten. If you put in a massive skewer in something like that, somebody's going to see it. You put something like that in the top of an apple, I'm not convinced that you wouldn't get stuck. So I decided in the end not to do it. And I just did it in modelling paste, which I haven't got tonight because there's no point, and let it set up and then stuck it in. So where are you? Let's just put that there. So, but everything in me wanted to put a little bit of wire in just so I could get that lovely, perfect sticking up. But I was just too nervous that someone was going to eat it. So that's the base colour. If you look at the top of your apple, which again I'm sure you can't see on the screen, but if you start looking at apples, you will see that they've got where they've been picked off the leaf, picked off the branch. They've got kind of like I'll put my hands in the way. Wait a minute. Come up here with it. Where am I? That way. There. They've got indentations and damage up the top here. So put that bit in. I'm going to get on my paintbrush. And I'm just going to paint brown into this top end. Whilst looking at my picture. Not my picture. Whilst looking at the real apple. You see I've got a real apple here. The difference that makes, you know, if it was a tiger, you can't do it. You can't get a real tiger to sit for you. But you can get an apple to sit for you. So don't do fruit without having it in front of you. It's so helpful. I'm just blending it a bit. So you see straight away you've got a more realistic looking, what do you call it? Stem? Don't know. Amy, gum trag is what they use to make modelling paste. You can buy it. Or you can just buy modelling paste as it is. Now, if I leave that to set, I might be able to get it to stick up a bit. So if we're happy with that one, wait a minute. Yeah, so Sue says the same. It's the same. Nikki says, I'm okay if they can't see an 8mm steel rod, they can go to Specsavers. Yeah, no, let me say, if it's something like that, stalk. Yeah, sorry. Oh, it's too many chats going on. Something that's a massive piece of structure, I'm totally happy with. Something that's that big. I put it in and I thought, oh, don't be silly, they're adults. And then I thought, yeah, and you know, it's just too risky. I wouldn't do it. So find a way, stick a bit of pasta in it, or find a way of supporting it. So we'll sit and leave it. You never know. It might do it. It might do it. Right, so there we go. So that's one done. Should we try now? I won't go all the way because it's boring being this red, but should we try now to see if we can just red it up a bit? So we're just carrying on the same pattern, but we're into this burgundy. But again, it's still in stripes. Can you see? It's still in stripes. So I'm not just suddenly going to hit it and make it completely solid. That's the biggest mistake people make is solid color isn't going to help you. So I'm now going over. I've still got all this undercolor. So even if I was doing that color, I would still start this color and then build in this darker. So my burgundy is now not strong enough. You see it's coming out to you know, mid red. And again, I'm going to leave areas that are lighter, and I'm just working in over the top. I like scrubbing with my paintbrush. This is why my paintbrushes are always battered, because I scrub with them. I think it looks much more realistic. And then you get the darker bits coming through, like going back over there and just creating a much darker bit there. Now we're looking at this apple. I'll do another bit over here. Looking at this apple, where it's got the darkness, it's actually got some like really faded bits coming through the top, almost like, I don't know if you can see it. Where are you? Can you see there? It's got some lines and dots and things. So again, although we can put the darkness in, we then have to come back. We want to leave those lighter areas, work on the darker areas, and then come back in and use, hopefully I've got, yeah, some white just to bring some of that detailing back. So let me just build up this colour a bit. You can easily see how long this game could take. So don't underestimate, whatever you do, don't underestimate the price on this one. like I did. It took me a week of like 3 hours a night sleep to get this done for real. Are you still talking about gum track? So I think the main takeaways from this are watch that you're not mucking around with primary colours, that you're actually working into the colours and getting much more natural tones, which you can do by, say, running your colour wheel, so adding your blues, or either buying like the specific colours like burgundy and stuff, or adding blues and stuff. What can you see? Where's that? There somewhere. And then again, working down layer by layer. So you get these lighter areas coming through and then the darker areas just sitting at the top. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. That's what Deirdre saying. Oh, I sound like I'm giving you homework. That's what I mean about tonight. It's a bit more kind of like proper teachy, isn't it? Rather than just, oh, what the heck, let's just muck about. Does happen occasionally. They're really nice projects, you know. It's a really nice project to have a play with. And you know, everyone's got an apple at home, so you can actually, they do it in art college and stuff, don't they? It's one of the first things you have to do is go and study an apple. They don't look like what you think they look like. That's the problem. Your brain's made up what they think they look like. Just trying to get this covered quickly. I can't see it. Right, so I've got a highlighted bit in there that I don't want, so I'm going to get into my brown and darken that right up. I'll try and do it without attacking the camera too much. Now, here's the thing. When you dry this, although it's lovely and shiny now, when it dries, it will go really matte. So you mustn't forget, I will do it at the end just to show you. You have to shine these. So you have to use a spray glaze on them. Your spray glaze will probably look a bit too shiny to start with, but actually it will dry matte. I'm just trying to see something. It's down here. Where I've got a gap somewhere. So let's just put a little bit of white on a plate. So this is just a super white, and then it will drag into all that purple and brown and stuff anyway. So we don't have to worry about it being too white. And exactly like I did the red dots earlier, I'm now going to put in some white-ish drag lines. And again, if they come out too solid or they're sticking out too much, they look too painterly, just go back onto your bigger brush, into your purples, and you can take the heat off them, make them blend in a bit more. This is just a game of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth all the time until you get a balance. Either until you get a balance or until you lose your mind trying one or the other. So that's the darker, and then if I just put in his spots down here, that's the darker apple. I don't really want to go any darker because look, it's really dark over there, and I can't really see it on the camera, so therefore you wouldn't be able to see it. I've still got some lighter areas around here. I could spend forever mucking around, but I won't. Look, and it's already 5 to 9. I lost a whole hour doing that. So let's see now if I can get this to sit in. Come on, baby. I'm just going to make it slightly shorter so I stand a better chance. There we go. Now that's sitting up slightly. I should have done a leaf really, but that's a whole different game. So, dead easy. His shape is ever so slightly wobbly. He's one of those, what do they call them? They're not perfect ones that you get in Asda for 15p. Just trying to round him up a bit. But you can see, and like, you wouldn't want to be any bigger, would you? And yet we started quite considerably smaller. Let me just have a muck about with him. Famous last words, don't muck about with him. So that, it looks lovely and shiny right now, but it will dry matte. So if you get on your, about to kill 2 perfectly good apples. This is PME spray glaze. You sure on that one? PME. Can't see it. PME spray glaze. Sorry, what? PME spray glaze. And you'll see, let me just see if I can get that to show. Very quickly you get a real vibrant spray on it, but actually it will dull down. It doesn't stay that bright, it does dull down. So that is how you paint up an apple, 2 different colour apples in 50 minutes on here. There's nothing difficult about it. It's a little learning game, this one, about playing about with your colours and not thinking it's a red apple, therefore I should do a brick red, but actually like looking at the tones of it and then making sure you start on your lightest colour and then build up to wherever you want to go. Hello, Chet. Yeah. Oh yeah, Julie, you can watch it back. It's fine. It's dead easy. Oh, who did I call a he? The apple? Probably. I do tend to do that. I think most of them are he's though. I don't tend to do girl cakes. Don't know why. So I could sit and play with this for a long time, and I probably will. All right, I'm going to go and take this blooming jumper off. I can't do it now because you haven't got anything on me. But I've cooked myself. I actually preferred it, the lighter ones. This is why I don't do these like the dark ones. I much preferred it when it was that kind of like all these colours. You can just see it a lot better, can't you? But I thought I'd show you how to tone from one to the other. So now you can make tons and tons of apples. And can you see how that would play out with bananas? So any of the fruit, I don't pre-color anything. I do it all white, and then it's just exactly the same technique. If you were painting a 2-dimensional apple, just do it on a 3D white base, and you will get a lot further than if you start trying to pre-color bananas yellow. You're stuck with a basic yellow, and if you pre-color these, you're stuck with a basic, and then you can't do it. Right, I am not here next week. Next Sunday I am up Sugar and Crumbs teaching absolutely awesome pasta, realistic pasta, realistic meatballs, more importantly a really realistic sauce that looks really cool, and then we're going to gravity it, but it's a simple gravity. Okay, so next Sunday is all about cake hacks. So how to do cool stuff without having grinders and without having structures and without having all that kind of stuff. So it's all about dowels and bending dowels and heating them up and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So it's basically packed full of hacks, cake hacks, next Sunday. If you want to come and hang out with me, that would be amazing. But I will be up in Stockport next Sunday, so I will not be here. So next week you can show me all your apples and fruit and all those cool things to do. They're really, really, yes, check. They're really fun to have a play with fruit, and fruit baskets are really, really fun as well. So they make beautiful things. So Chet has just told me, word of warning, this stuff, spray glaze, gets everywhere. And not only does it get everywhere, it forms this like sandpaper film on everything you have. So awful. It's awful stuff. So I kill my phone all the time. I kill my computers all the time. I kill my worktops all the time, because you think you're spraying that, but you're not. You're spraying that plus about 2 meters either way. So if you're going to spray glaze stuff, put it in a box first, and then is it not vegetarian? Is it made of bugs? Is it? Oh yeah, shellac. Yeah, it's made. You don't want to know how the stuff's made. There are probably other things. You could probably use olive oil. I use olive oil to shine things quite a lot. Yeah, there we go. Another great live. Thank you very much, guys. A bit random this one. I couldn't quite work out how to do it, because I would normally I can't stress this enough, it would be carve it, fill it, butter, ganache, fridge, set, smooth, cover, set, and then do it. So it's definitely a wonky fruit tonight, but you've got the idea. You know how it's done, and I will see you in a couple of weeks' time, or I will see you next Sunday on the pasta class. Good night from all over the world, wherever you are, and I will see you next week. Take it easy. Bye.